Today I'm here at Rogers Piano in Natick, Massachusetts with a very cool piano, and at first glance you may look at it if you aren't familiar with the name on the fallboard and go, that's a small piano, that can't possibly be good. It's very easy to underestimate a piano by looking at its size and saying, that's a small piano, it's far less than 7 foot, it's actually less than 7 feet, I believe this is 5'11". And it's easy to look at a piano like that and say it couldn't possibly sound good. But in the case of Shigeru Kawai and a select few other manufacturers, that is not the case at all. The Shigeru Kawai SK-2 is easily one of the best pianos of this size in the world, especially I think this one. I think this one might really have an especially fat tone. I've played other SK-2s and I've liked them, but I really like this one. Maybe it's because the action is a little bit heavier than you typically find in the Shigeru Kawai, and that's my personal taste for practicing especially, and somewhat with performing. I enjoy a heavier action than one that is very light. Years ago, I would have been the total opposite, but today I'm enjoying the feel of a heavier action. I find the tone of the bass, which typically on pianos of this size is muddy and gross, I find the tone of this one to be pristine and wonderful, and the tone of the treble is incredible, absolutely amazing. So before we even get started, let me play Edward Shoots Cavatine. I never can remember the name Edward. Why? Let's play Edward Shoots Cavatine on this beautiful Shigeru Kawai SK-2 and take a listen to the tone of the mid-range, the tone of the treble, the melodic capability, and just take it all in. I hope you enjoy. That is not the sound of your average 5'11" piano. That is not the sound of your average 6-foot piano. Many of the sound qualities of this piano near the quality of sound you would find in a 7-foot piano. The only exception being the bass, which doesn't rival the sound of a 7-foot piano, but for the size of this piano is absolutely incredible. When I say it doesn't rival the sound of a 7-foot piano, that is by no means an insult. It's a compliment that I even have to consider the fact of, does it rival a 7-foot piano? That's actually an incredible compliment. So let's take a listen to the bass alone. We've kind of heard a good range of the piano by now. Let's take a listen to the bass alone. As I stated earlier in the video, pianos of this size tend to have a muddy, gross, distorted bass, especially when you get down to the lowest 10 or so notes. But how do they sound like on the SK-2? Well, here's how they sound. All the way down to A0, the lowest note of the piano. The piano is holding itself together, the tone sounds there, and it sounds like music. Not all pianos this size can do that. So the bass of this piano is incredible. The mid-range of the piano is also beautifully warm, like I've said before. During the years like 2016 and 2017, I enjoyed the Shigeru Kawais at that time the most for having a very warm, velvety sound that just enveloped you and just surrounded you. It was amazing. And then for a few years, they seemed to be veering away from that tone and going for more like a Yamaha-esque power-oriented tone where you dig in and presents and projects, but when you play it quietly, it's a little bit cold. This piano was made in 2020, and it sounds like that old 2016, 2017 Shigeru Kawai era sound. It's a beautiful, beautiful tone. And the treble is lovely as well. It sounds solid and it sounds planted. You play the piano and it knows exactly what you want it to do, and yet the treble is also very, very airy and crystalline. I use that word a lot, but it's really the best word to use to describe a lot of the trebles of the pianos I play, especially this one. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I can't stress it enough that this does not feel or sound like a 5'11" piano. It feels like somewhere between 6 and 7 feet. That's what the overall tonal quality reminds me of. It has the treble, I'd say, that easily rivals a concert grand. The presence, the power, the clarity, the performance of the high range of the piano is world class. The mid-range is also exceptionally good, and the bass is amazing for a piano of this sound quality. Like I've said, compared to a 7-foot or a 9-foot, it's not quite as good, but for a 5'11" piano, I'm not really sure how much better you can get. Than that. The balance as well is amazing. You've got the powerful, rich bass, which I played that first E flat a little too loud, but nonetheless the treble was able to compete with it and play just fine. And the treble, although when you kind of play it harder, it gets louder and brighter, it never reaches that edge of annoying or shrill. It just holds together well. That's what I mean by like the sound is planted. The piano knows what it wants to do. It knows what its limits are. It doesn't really want to exceed those. It's always going to sound great. And the playing experience of the Shigeru Kawai is really, really lovely. What I'm going to do next is play some Scarlatti, and then after that I'm going to show you a few of the features of the inside, mostly just aesthetic, that I think are nice. That is what a piano is all about. I know it's a simple piece, but that simplicity of a piece of music can sometimes really bring out the qualities and of tone of a piano than a fast, complicated, difficult piece of music can. That Scarlatti, I think, really shows a lot of the emphasis and of quality of tone that I'm trying to demonstrate here. The clarity, the warmth, and just the overall quality of sound here is amazing. Something else I wanted to mention is that the sound is very crisp as well. Not only is it clean, but it's crisp. The dampers seat down on the strings very well. Not all high-end piano makers do this. There's a particular brand of piano I'm thinking of whose name starts with S, whose dampers in the bass do not seat well straight out of the box. But Shigeru Kawai and many other high-end brands do. You can see when you play very crisply, there's no harmonic resonance. The dampers just stop the string as soon as you let go of the note. And that's also true up here in the treble, which led to a very crisp sound for that Scarlatti, which I think sounded absolutely perfect for that piece. Now, let's take a look at the inside and talk about some of the aesthetic choices that Kawai has made that makes the Shigeru Kawai pianos, not just the SK-2, but all of them, really lovely to look at. The inside of the Shigeru Kawai visually is just as pretty as the sonic experience you get when you play it. I think the appearance of these pianos is beautiful. And this is true for the SK-2 all the way up to the SK-EX. They're all beautiful pianos. Some of the things I really like aesthetically about the inside of these pianos, most importantly, is the bird's eye maple rim. This is kind of done in like a satin type of finish, more like semi-gloss finish on the bird's eye maple, and it's beautiful. It is absolutely lovely. I really like the way it captures the light, and at different angles the wood kind of changes colors and goes from being dark to being light, and it captures the light in a really nice way, and it also complements the kind of darker orange harp. This is similar to what you might find in a Bösendorfer harp, but it's more of a different color. The Bösendorfers are more like a kind of a salmon color, and this is more of like an actual orange color, and it's a very cool color for the harp. And like I said, it contrasts well with the bird's eye maple. If they had the traditional like Steinway gold harp in here, it would look kind of bland next to the bird's eye maple, but the gold really contrasts well, and I think looks awesome. You can also see the round Shigeru Kawai logo in the center of the soundboard there, talking about the handcrafted excellence and the premier piano of Japan, which this really is. Yamaha would probably dispute that. Some of their SX line pianos are very nice, but I think it'll be interesting, really interesting, and I'll probably never get the chance to, but to compare a similarly sized Yamaha SX piano to a Shigeru Kawai. Now that would be a video right there. If anyone is able to access that, let me know. I'd do a video about that. Over here you have the same exact badge as on the soundboard, except in a different sort of style. It says same basic stuff, but it's on a nice kind of badge on the harp. It also says Ryuyo Japan, the place where these pianos are made. What else is there to talk about? I've really talked about the main aesthetic things here. I mentioned Bösendorfer earlier, and we can look at the portholes on this instrument. You can see they're pretty small, not like what you would find on a Bösendorfer, and they are just kind of small and more sealed off. Kind of like more of like an American sort of style compared to the Bösendorfer style. A couple of other things I wanted to talk about. The common looped hitching is found on the Shigeru Kawai. If you've seen my videos, again, about Bösendorfers or many other European brands, you'll often hear me talk about the individual hitch stringing that is found on those, and this is the looped hitch method. So essentially what's going on here is this is one piece of wire that will wrap around this hitch pin, and it's one strand of wire around this one and one strand of wire around this one. But in many cases, I think in this string here, we will find that this side goes to this note and this side goes to that note. So one strand of wire can form two different strings for two different pitches, which is one advantage of the looped hitched method, where you can use less wire and it's easier to install, less time consuming, and it's a bit easier to maintain. But the downside is if that wire were to break, you wouldn't just lose one string on one note, you'd lose two strings on two different notes. That is the downside of the looped hitch method, but fortunately strings don't break that often on pianos, so at the end of the day, it's really more of manufacturer's choice, but there are definite advantages to single hitched strings. Finally, you can see the serial number for the Shigeru Kawai SK-2 right up front here, as well as the SK-2 badge off to the left of it. Serial number, if I'm reading it upside down, maybe I'm wrong, is 2730831. I think I got that right. And there is the SK-2 badge right there. It kind of matches the aesthetic of the Shigeru Kawai badge we looked at earlier. And as a whole, this is an absolutely gorgeous piano. We can look at the action. Shigeru Kawai uses a carbon fiber and a composite action with wooden shanks. If I remember right, Kawai believes that the the wooden shanks provide a little bit more springiness than carbon fiber shanks do, which is what other manufacturers use in their composite actions. If I remember right, this is the Millennium 3 action, and it is an absolutely fine action. The final little interesting feature I wanted to show you on the Shigeru Kawai SK-3 is the triple lid props. This one here is solid metal. It's nice and cold and very quality feeling when you move it back and forth. This is a little baby one. Then you have the bigger brother, and then you have the big mama lid prop here. So you've got the full size, you've got the mid size as most pianos do, and then you have the ittle bitty little tiny baby one, which is really adorable. So those are all the little interesting features of the Shigeru Kawai piano, the SK-2. It's a beautiful, beautiful instrument. So I really hope you all have enjoyed this video of this beautiful Shigeru Kawai SK-2. It's one of the best pianos I have played in a few months for sure. It is an outstanding piano, and the fact that I'm saying that it's one of the best pianos I've played all month, and it's this small, goes to show how good the Shigeru Kawai pianos are and how good the SK-7 and the SK-EX are. If the Shigeru Kawai SK-2 feels like a 7-foot piano, imagine what the SK-7, an actual 7-foot piano, feels like. I think it's 7'6". Imagine what that feels like. That rivals the Concert Grand, and then the SK-EX is a whole different ballgame. So I really hope you all have enjoyed this review of the SK-2. Like I said, it's a fantastic piano, and it's been actually a really great pleasure to do this video. It's been a very long day. I've spent a long time filming, but making this video has actually been very fun. Playing this piano is a wonderful experience. So if you're on the East Coast, drop by Rogers Pianos and check this thing out. It is amazing. It is an outstanding instrument, and I want to say thank you all for watching. Thank you for subscribing if you've done so already, and if you haven't, you might want to go subscribe because I've got all kinds of cool videos of acoustic pianos, digital pianos, and sometimes other oddball things too. I bought a weird synth today, and I'll be making a video of that too. So if you like anything musical related, pretty much, you may find it on the channel. And if you want to subscribe, thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.